When Germany sent nearly 180 retired Leopard 1A5 tanks to Ukraine in early 2023, few expected them to matter. First introduced in the 1960s, the Leopard 1 was seen as outdated, lightly armored and outclassed by modern designs like the Leopard 2. Yet on Ukraine's drone-filled, artillery-heavy battlefields, these forgotten tanks have found new life. Ukrainian engineers turned them into long-range sniper tanks, drone hunters, and even anti-aircraft platforms. And surprisingly, they're surviving better than some newer Western models. A second life for a forgotten tank. The Leopard 1. A 5 was never supposed to face Russian forces in 2025. When Germany, Denmark, and the Netherlands agreed to send their stockpiles of retired Leopard 1 tanks, it was seen as a way to clear out storage depots rather than change the balance of power. Italy joined later, offering part of its own surplus, though the number eventually dropped due to logistical hurdles. Deliveries were delayed while engineers worked to ensure that decades-old vehicles could even function, and the first refurbished Leopards only arrived in Ukraine by September 2024. Despite their age, the tanks quickly proved more resilient than expected. By August 2025, Ukraine had 103 Leopard 1 A5s in active service. Only 21 had been destroyed, abandoned, or rendered inoperable, a survival rate of about 87%. The Ukrainian 508th Separate Repair and Restoration Battalion, responsible for recovering and repairing damaged vehicles, called these losses acceptable and praised the brigades using the Leopards effectively. This outcome surprised many Western analysts who assumed the Leopard 1 would suffer catastrophic attrition. The explanation lies not in the tank's original design, but in how Ukraine fundamentally rethought its role on the battlefield. Understanding the Leopard 1's original weaknesses. The Leopard 1 was conceived during the Cold War under a very different philosophy from today's main battle tanks. At just 40 tons, it was relatively light and fast, built to maneuver across Europe rather than absorb heavy fire. Its frontal armor was no thicker than 70 millimeters, enough to stop small and medium-caliber rounds, but hopeless against the 125-millimeter guns mounted on Soviet tanks like the T-64. As long-range missiles, artillery, and drone-delivered explosives became widespread, the Leopard 1's vulnerability grew even more apparent. Modern war has shown that mobility can be as important as protection, especially in Ukraine's swampy, mud-prone terrain, where roads are often under constant drone surveillance. Heavier tanks like the Leopard 2 and the American M1, Abrams struggle to move quickly off-road and depend on well-maintained supply routes. Ukraine recognized that simply adding more armor to the Leopard, one would undermine its one natural advantage, speed and agility, and still leave it exposed to modern weapons, from bulletproof to drone-proof. Rather than trying to make the Leopard 1 impervious to tank shells and missiles, Ukrainian engineers focused on the most immediate threat: drones and explosive munitions. The result was a shift from the traditional idea of bulletproof to what could be called drone-proof. One major upgrade was the integration of explosive reactive armor, or ERA. Engineers fitted the Leopard 1 A5 with Contact 1 and NIJ, two types of Soviet-designed ERA originally meant for T-64 tanks. These explosive blocks detonate when struck by incoming warheads, disrupting the shaped charges before they can penetrate the hull. Adapting the ERA to the Leopard's different chassis required careful engineering, but once mounted strategically across vulnerable areas, the protection became highly effective. Contact 1 works well against older rocket-propelled grenades and anti-tank missiles, while NIJ adds better multi-hit resilience and some defense against kinetic penetrators. Even more visibly, Ukraine added elaborate anti-drone cages and mesh screens to its Leopards. These deployable grills fold over the turret like the roof of a convertible, creating a barrier that traps or deflects first-person view attack drones before they can strike directly. Ukrainian footage has shown that this improvisation works. One Leopard reportedly survived 11 separate drone hits before finally being disabled, including direct strikes to its turret and hull. In a war where small, cheap drones have destroyed many expensive Western tanks, this kind of low-tech innovation has proven critical. Changing how the tank fights. Armor improvements alone would not have saved the Leopard 1. Ukraine also reimagined how to use the tank tactically, moving away from the traditional main battle tank doctrine. Instead of leading armored assaults or engaging in prolonged duels, the Leopard 1A5 has become a mobile sniper. Crews now use concealment and speed to their advantage, hiding until a target appears, then moving quickly into range, firing and retreating before Russian artillery or drones can respond. This hit-and-run style suits the tank's lightweight design and reduces its exposure to counterstrikes. Although its 105mm Royal Ordnance L7A3 gun is smaller than the 120mm cannons on modern NATO tanks, it has become surprisingly lethal thanks to upgrades. Ukraine fitted the Leopards with advanced laser rangefinders, thermal imaging, and modern ammunition, making the gun accurate at 2.5 to 3 miles, beyond the visual range of older optics. Well-trained Ukrainian crews can fire up to 10 rounds per minute, often outpacing their Russian adversaries. The combination of mobility, accuracy, and ambush tactics has allowed the Leopard 1 to punch above its weight. Ukraine also changed how ammunition is stored to reduce catastrophic losses. Only a limited number of rounds are kept in the turret for immediate use, while the rest remain in the more protected crew compartment. If the turret is struck, the risk of the entire tank exploding is reduced. This adaptation mirrors lessons learned from Russian T-72s, which often detonate when their autoloaders are hit. Western partners experiment too. Ukraine isn't alone in keeping the Leopard 1 relevant. Belgium is testing the Cockerel 3105 unmanned turret, which carries a 105mm gun with an autoloader, advanced sensors, and laser-guided missiles. This setup cuts the crew to 3, lightens the tank by about 5 tons, and boosts both accuracy and survivability. Germany's Rheinmetall is converting Leopard hulls into mobile air defense systems with the Skyranger 35 turret. A 35mm autocannon effective against drones and low-flying aircraft, plus options for Stinger or Mistral missiles. Still in testing, it could give Ukraine a cheaper, mobile way to fight drone swarms and repurpose old tanks for modern threats. Why the Leopard 1 is outperforming newer tanks. The Leopard 1. A 5's success exposes key flaws in modern tank warfare. Sometimes simpler machines outperform advanced ones in real combat. Heavy tanks like the Leopard 2 and US M1 Abrams were built for NATO-style wars with secure supply lines, air cover, and specialized repair facilities. Advantages Ukraine doesn't have. Leopard 2s, though powerful, are hard to maintain, and often must be sent far from the front for repairs. Abrams tanks have fared even worse. Of the 31 sent, Ukraine has already lost 27 due to maintenance problems, fuel demands, and difficulty adding drone protection. The Leopard 1A5, by contrast, is easy to fix near the battlefield with basic tools. Its upgraded EMES-18 fire control system offers modern targeting without fragile high-tech systems. Its lighter weight makes it more mobile in Ukraine's mud and easier to deploy across improvised crossings. Just as importantly, quantity matters. Ukraine has about 100 Leopard 1A5s compared to fewer than 80 Leopard 2s, and NATO can supply them freely from surplus stocks. A reliable, adaptable tank available in numbers can be more valuable than a few complex, fragile machines. The limits of the Franken Leopard. Despite their success, Ukraine's modified Leopards are far from invincible. Extra armor and drone cages slow the tank and demand constant upkeep in tough field conditions. The 1960s chassis was never built for heavy upgrades, and too much weight or technology risks breaking its performance. In close urban combat, where powerful weapons hit at short range, even upgraded Leopards remain vulnerable. Belgium's unmanned turret and Rheinmetall's Skyranger may extend their life, but at some point these machines become something beyond the original Leopard 1. Lessons for the future of tank warfare. The Leopard 1. A 5's unexpected success shows that modern tank design may need a rethink. For decades, armies focused on bigger guns, thicker armor, and complex electronics. But cheap drones and precision strikes have made that approach less effective. A tank that is costly, hard to repair, and easy to spot can be outmatched by simpler, adaptable vehicles. Ukraine's experience suggests the future may favor lighter, upgradable tanks that can resist drones, be fixed in the field, and fight as ambush weapons or mobile artillery rather than heavy spearheads. And that's the story of how Ukraine turned forgotten Cold War tanks into modern battlefield survivors. If you found this video insightful and want to keep up with how technology, tactics, and innovation are reshaping modern warfare, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.